Hi, welcome to Bernama. Today I'm Jessie Chahal, and today we discuss the topic of child health beginning in the womb. I'm joined by ONG consultant and maternal medicine specialist Dr. Shilpa Nambiar. Dr. Shilpa, welcome to the studio. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Such a pleasure. We are, of course, addressing an issue that not many of us perhaps are aware about, or that we know that a child's health, in fact, as you say and believe, that it begins in the mother's womb. So explain to us what this is, or how it happens, what it's like, and how it affects a child mentally and physically as well.
Okay, it's very interesting because it isn't just the child's health that begins in the womb, but programming during that time the mother is pregnant for actually future health risks like diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. And in fact, it's really important to get that environment in the uterus optimum so that the child does not develop these problems later on. But pregnancy is something that's a mother goes through huge changes in her body to go through.
Right.
Her heart has to work twice as hard to pump blood into the uterus as well as to cope with her own needs. The placenta is, pumping huge industrial strength hormones into her body to support that pregnancy, but can cause all kinds of physical discomfort and additional strain on her body. So what we hope is that most people are healthy enough to cope with this and they have a nice healthy baby at the end.
Okay, so what is the truth right now is a lot of people are trying to have children, and the issue of infertility is also on the rise. Does a mother need to have, like as you've pointed out, a pristine womb before she tries to have a child, so that the child's health is somewhat guaranteed, or does it upon her conceiving, then she kickstarts by taking supplements and leading a healthy lifestyle? I mean, seems like a chicken and egg.
Not really. I think it's important that anyone planning to have a pregnancy go to see a doctor right away. Because if you're going to wait until you conceive, two problems with that. One, you don't really know when you conceive. By the time the pregnancy test is positive and you discover you're pregnant, it's about 6-7 weeks into the pregnancy already, where a lot of development has already happened. So if you're planning to get pregnant, that's the time you need to get in your best physical health. You need to lose weight if you're obese. You need to put on weight if you're underweight. You need to be on folic acid supplementation, because it's the 6-7 weeks where folate is really needed for brain and spine development. You need to, if you have medical problems, you need to get that optimized and see if it's safe for you to get pregnant at all. And of course, I know most people wait for the pregnancy test to be positive before they give up smoking and alcohol, but there is now evidence to say that even exposure to alcohol, environmental toxins, before the sperm meets the egg, there is already programming there.
What kind of programming goes on there?
So it's called epigenetic programming, where even though it is the same DNA that's carried by the sperm and the egg, even before they meet, certain exposures can
environmental
turn on,
conditions.
Yes, alcohol, smoking, even exposure to certain chemicals in the workplace can turn on and turn off certain genes.
Right.
So you really need to be making sure all of this is right before you get pregnant.
Okay, where does genes play a role? Because, for some people, like you see mother and father and mother completely healthy, and child sometimes suffers from a few health ailments. So where does genes play in the bigger role of these
You may
things?
not be completely healthy as you think.
Yeah.
Being overweight when you get pregnant, whether it's mother or father, is already sending down certain messaging during the pregnancy that predisposes this child to obesity in childhood and later in life. You may not be outwardly diabetic, but you may have issues controlling sugar levels, so that means you become diabetic during the pregnancy, and that puts stress on the baby as well. What happens is that when the baby isn't getting the maximum nutrition from the mother, oxygen, nutrition, what the baby starts doing is sending it to important structures. Important is the brain, important is the heart. Every other organ system, not quite as important when you're getting less food than you're supposed to get. So these organ systems don't develop as well. And so when they are at a stage in late adulthood where they need to cope with that extra stress, they can't.
What are some of the mistakes most Malaysians are making, you feel, for the patients who come to you?
Obesity, we are the champions in Southeast Asia in terms of obesity. And obesity on its own predisposes to all sorts of health conditions. So the mistake, as you talked about, is that we're not physically active from the time we're adolescents. The mistake we're making is eating very unhealthy but delicious Malaysian food, and not really caring about their health.
Okay, so there needs to be more awareness on that. You say that you need to be ready to conceive and not then kickstart a healthy lifestyle upon knowing that you're pregnant. What about its implications on the child's mental health? Because this is also a point that I think many are not aware about.
That's a tricky area, only because stress and anxiety is very difficult to quantify and study. How much stress is too much stress before it affects the baby? How much anxiety is too much anxiety? What we do know that even stressor experiences in a mother's life can translate to certain abnormalities in neurotransmitter development in the baby. And we know that even these lesser stressors can give rise to children who have difficulty adapting in school, having more anxiety disorders and things like that, not being able to cope as much as a child whose mother did not go through this. And that's not even talking about mental health. If you do have mental health in your family or a personal history, then this predisposes the child already.
Right.
So you really have to be happy if you're pregnant, even if it's hard to be.
That's right. Yes. A piece of advice I got when I was pregnant: watch, a series of Friends or watch something funny and constantly be happy. But it's not that easy when you're running around and you've got work and you've got to continue your daily routine. But nonetheless, what are you doing, as an agent of change to try and get this message out there to mothers and fathers to be alike?
Well, we do a show like this. We do organize some public health forums. But I think you can't reach everyone. So what's more important, I feel, is to train the younger doctors, the trainee gynecologists, to speak to their patients and the people that they're exposed to. That's the only way.
Like you said, we can't reach everyone. I think it's also important to reach, whether it's the M40 and the B40 groups as well. How do you get that message out to them and sort of make them understand as well?
Probably press, media. Social media is a big impetus for change these days. Prince Court does a few of these health promotion activities, which I hope will reach more people.
We have heard about, these kind of, plans before. We see posters here and there and all of that. But what is the follow-through, really? How do you get to ensure that, whether it's a young mother-to-be or a mother having a second or third baby, are keeping in line with a healthy lifestyle and are subscribing to that? Not just her, then I guess the whole family as well.
I think it is more governmental, at a governmental stage, where you need to put policy in, maybe give people incentives to become healthy. It's very difficult otherwise. Most people won't do anything to change their lifestyle until something bad happens.
Right, yes, like our last Sumatran rhino, and only now everybody wants to jump up and down. Okay, so just listening to music and listening to intelligent stuff, I was told, was good for the baby. Is the baby even listening?
The baby can hear from about 16 weeks onwards. It's very unlikely the baby understands what it's listening to, or even if it's going to help with later language development. But certainly we know that baby has a preference.
Oh, right.
So when you do pump music into the uterus, they tend to respond to classical music more than rock and pop and anything else. So they've got pretty good tastes. And they've studied this by looking at baby's mouth movements as you play different types of music, as if the baby is trying to respond and sync back, and it's usually classical music.
Right.
The baby does recognize the mother's voice and people who do talk to him or her while you're pregnant, and you see that they calm immediately when these people come around him after he's born. But very unlikely that it will affect future language development, because that happens as he's growing up.
So the baby can hear mom and dad speak as well?
Yes, but we probably won't know what they're talking about.
Of course, yeah. Social media, everyone's on it. When you're pregnant, you kick back, you want to relax for a while, you tend to pick up your phone. Handphone usage, mobile phone usage, how detrimental is that to the health and well-being of the baby and the development?
Well, we don't have enough evidence to say that having a handphone right next to you all the time is going to affect the baby.
What about Wi-Fi?
But I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does, because if you've seen experiments with plants and animals, you see that there is quite a lot of effect in terms of their growth. And if a plant can die when it's been exposed to Wi-Fi all day, what do you think that's doing to
human cells, especially as new cells developing? Very quickly, doctor, what's the three main things you say all women must do once she has conceived or prior?
Folic acid, get in your best physical health, stop all the bad habits you've had beforehand, and wait.
Yep, all right. Thank you so much for coming in. Of course, helping millions of Malaysians around the country in hope for them to have a baby. All right, we'll see
Thank
you
you very much.
next time. Yes, keep it locked on right here. We take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more.